absurd that many people believe the announcements we are beginning to see today are novel. However, what if I told you that everything we are actually seeing at the moment is a part of the same precise plan that has been laid out for years? This plan in particular dates back to one of the most important years for all of this, 2020, everyone. Welcome to the channel. Nick is my name. If you are new to the channel, I hope you will subscribe by the end of this video. March 2020 was a pivotal month because of the COVID-19 pandemic, which pushed the push for digitalization. This, in my opinion, is actually rather evident from what the IMF told us in 2020. Kristalina Georgieva is here. In order to avoid a major reversal and instead move toward a big reset, it is necessary to examine the opportunities we have to overcome this crisis. These options include investing in a future that is climate resilient, people is left behind, that it is growing globally in terms of opportunities. Second, we have an opportunity to invest in a low carbon, climate resilient future by using our stimulus. Third, we can take care of the necessities for social protection. Even with this crisis and the 3% growth, David, we are a wealthy world with a GDP of over $80 trillion, 0 cents. A more equitable distribution of the advantages of growth is required. On the other side, there is a better world, and a lot of nations are discussing it. How are we able to, instead of regressing, build for the future? We can choose. We either embark on a tremendous reset, or we are in a great reversal. The fact that January 2020 occurred before COVID truly occurred makes this time period even more fascinating. The CEO of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, discusses the distinctions between XRP and stable coins. In actuality, this is crucial nowadays. Eventually, every nation will establish its own CBDC. Stable coins may be that in this instance. The bridge will be XRP. Take a look at this. The first thing to note is that stable coins are currently very popular. These days, everyone is releasing dollar-backed or asset-backed coins that allow them to trade easily, swiftly, and without the volatility. What benefit then would there be in utilizing XRP, for example, as opposed to one of these more or less totally stable assets? For instance, Coinbase and Circle have produced a stablecoin like. That seems like an intriguing way to reduce volatility, but you still need to convert from dollars to pesos. You have a bridge eventually. That needs to be bridged by someone. In essence, Ripple is working to make XRP the most liquid and efficient cryptocurrency, selling efficient connectors on both ends and APIs that enable connections to both ends is the simplest way to bridge that gap. It is encouraging for XRP's liquidity, in my opinion, if hundreds of banks are linked to use it for that purpose. In essence, the winner of this game will be the one with the most liquidity. That's what I think. After all, I believe that various people hold different beliefs. That's all right. In 2020, this was crucial to, really pay attention to. But these days, it's much more crucial, particularly since stable coins now account for 1% of the M2 global money supply. Stable cryptocurrencies are getting embraced every single day. Every day, more reliable currency announcements are made than in the past. What's astounding, though, is that this was in 2023, all right? So this is a slightly more recent perspective. Cash can be replaced by digital currencies issued by central banks, according to the IMF. Now is not the moment to go back. In essence, stable coins are CBDCs. I want everyone to know that. Grim time. I want you all to understand how stable currencies are really getting. However, this is also from Kristalina Georgieva. According to her, the government should continue getting ready to implement digital currencies issued by central banks and associated payment systems in the future. We're still not on land. There is a great deal of room for creativity and a great deal of ambiguity regarding use cases. Only 11 nations had embraced the CDCs from the Atlantic Council at that point in time. I believe it's a little bit more than that these days. However, 90% of central banks are investigating CBDCs. They are still actively investigating them. However, I bring up all of this because of the recent announcements made by the IMF and the Gold Telegraph. The global economic order is undergoing a significant reset, according to the International Monetary Fund. The world is entering a new age as the global economic system that has governed the majority of nations for the past 80 years is being reset. We can see that it's the first line here if we dig deeper and truly examine where they state that. Since late January, new positions have not yet emerged and our current roles are being challenged. On April 2, the United States announced nearly universal tariffs after a flurry of statements that began with Canada, China, Mexico, and crucial industries. While major trading partners' countermeasures sharply increased the worldwide rate, the US effective tariff rate soared, exceeding levels seen during the Great Depression. Once more, they are discussing tariffs and other related topics. Let's be straightforward. Let's be honest about the true nature of the tariff debates, trade wars, and major confrontations, and accelerated events is what they are. We know all too well how they use these occasions to promote their agenda, don't we? COVID. 2020 was the ideal year to concentrate on this, as the IMF wasn't the only organization advocating for a great reset. The big reset was being promoted by the World Economic Forum. Every major body, including the World Bank, is advocating for the great reset. We are currently witnessing the digital revolution. How can we speed up the digital revolution? Well, we start this trade war and this major issue, and suddenly it speeds up the movement away from the US currency and into digital currencies and stablecoin efforts. Then we consider what Scott Bissett just informed us as well. The World Bank and the IMF have lasting importance, but mission creep has thrown these organizations off course. To make sure that the Bretton Woods institutions are benefiting its stakeholders rather than the other way around, we need to implement significant reforms. Now, he published other posts besides this one. Since I played this video clip in a prior video, I will actually be discussing the second post. With the benefit of those of you who did not view the video, I will play it again. I would then like to play the other Scott Bissett clip. Take a look. For the majority of my career, I have seen financial policy circles from a distance. I'm looking out from the inside now. I can't wait to collaborate with each of you to bring the global system back into shape. However, we must first rebuild the World Bank and IMF in order to accomplish this. Is with or restore the World Bank's and IMF's original missions. The World Bank and IMF have lasting importance. However, these institutions have veered off course due to mission creep. To make sure that the Bretton Woods institutions are benefiting its stakeholders rather than the other way around, we need to implement significant reforms. This was essentially an announcement that the World Bank and the IMF needed to align. We're going to witness, a whole new shift taking place here. Isn't the huge ward the end goal of all of this? The restart. We are witnessing a significant reset in all areas. It goes beyond simply reforming the World Bank and IMF. No, everything has been completely reset. However, we also need to restore the IMF to its former glory. In the past, the IMF was steadfast in its goal of advancing financial stability and international monetary cooperation. These days, it spends a disproportionate amount of time and money working on social, gender, and climate change concerns. The IMF is not here to solve these problems. First, we need to restore the IMF to its original form, promoting global monetary cooperation and enabling the balanced expansion of global commerce are the goals of the IMF. Promote economic expansion and oppose detrimental practices such as depreciation of the competitive exchange rate. In order to support the US and worldwide economies, these are very critical functions. Rather, the IMF has experienced mission creep. In the past, the IMF was steadfast in its goal of advancing financial stability and international monetary cooperation. These days, it spends an excessive amount of time and money working on social, gender, and climate change concerns. The IMF is not here to solve these problems. Additionally, the IMF's work on important macroeconomic concerns is being overshadowed by its concentration on these areas. The IMF must be frank with all of its members, not just a select few. The IMF has been whistling past the cemetery today. Imbalances Receiving was the title of its external sector report for 2024. This Pollyanna's perspective is indicative of an organization that is more concerned with maintaining the status quo than with providing the difficult answers. I mean, listen, it's clear that there are serious issues here. First of all, the IMF and all of these institutions are undoubtedly focusing on the wrong things, but below it all is a mounting strain that is just waiting to blow up, and the reset will come from that. For example, everything we've seen in the past few years, you could even